Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. We're broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the United Kingdom and across the world. We're bringing you quality, pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and on TikTok. And we are in a fight for the heart and mind and soul of the people of this here United Kingdom. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join us in that great work of time. Send in your comments, send in your questions, and send in your greetings, please, regardless of where in the world you may be watching from. We love to hear from you. And please, if you're watching on YouTube, do hit that thumbs up button. That's one of the key ways in which the YouTube algorithm alerts the world to our content. If you're watching on Facebook, please give us a share and a like. And if you're watching on Twitter, please do repost. Please do repost. And if you repost with a quote comment, then we can also retweet that to over 27,000 people on the network worldwide. And folks, thank you for watching also on TikTok. Doesn't matter if you are a unionist or if you are for separating from the rest of your British family. Do send in your messages and your thoughts this winter's evening. My name is Alistair McConnachie and this is A Force for Good. Somebody says there, I thought Brexit was about bringing back the empire. Well, sadly, it has not transpired in that way, at least not quite yet, but maybe give it a few more months and we'll see what Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer can deliver. But certainly people thought Brexit was about stopping immigration. They didn't realise it was about actually multiplying the number of people coming into the country several-fold. Anyway, we might talk about that later in the programme. But we've had an awfully busy week here in the office. Awfully busy week. Today we were working on the cover. Our graphic designer was working on the cover of our new book, which should be out, all things going well, next week. And last weekend we had another of our street stalls here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow. And of course it's also the second week now of our YULE BRITANNIA Christmas crowdfunder. So let's talk firstly though about, well, let's just say hello to some people who have come in here. Derek was first in, and Derek says, good evening, Alistair and fellow unionists. More scrutiny with the SNP. What are they hiding? Well, that's an interesting thing. The Court of Session today ruled that the SNP was not able to keep hiding material that it wanted to keep hidden regarding the Nicola Sturgeon, Alex Salmond debacle. And the SNP had wanted to keep that hidden for some reason. I wonder what could be the possible reason. Anyway, the Court of Session said no, it had to be made public. Now the question is how much of this information is going to be quote-unquote redacted when it is in fact made public, or how much of it is actually going to tell a story that we don't already know about. Anyway, who knows about that, but all we care about is that it's more trouble for the SNP. It's more of a headache for Nicola Sturgeon, actually. She is the main person involved here, so big headache for her. And for the rest of us, it's get the popcorn out and see where it might lead us. Derek says there's some great gifts in the Christmas YULE BRITANNIA crowdfunder. There is, Derek, and we're going to be listing them shortly. As Derek says, they're perfect for weddings, Christmas, presents and birthdays. and he's looking forward to the new book. Debbie says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, Debbie. Hope you are well. Good. Well, let's tell you briefly about our escapade at the weekend. We had another street stall here in Glasgow. Let's put up a picture of that just to show that the weather does not stop us, and it can be cold and it can be snow, but we'll be out there. There's one of our great activists at our stall with our display. Okay, next pic. One of the punters signing our petition there as well at the stall. Quite a few signatures on the day. There is the stall with all our goods, including there in the centre our magazine, our latest magazine, that is King and Country, and that's a close-up of the stall. Now let's just hold it there for a second. As you see, we've got a sign that says badges, books and cards for a donation, and we did sell a couple of packs of cards as well. I was pleased to not sell, gave away for a donation, and they were the Christmas cards, so I was pleased about that. And in fact, okay, our Christmas cards, which we're needing to shift, we've only got 5 packs left, and these are the Christmas cards we got done a couple of years ago, actually. Are wishing you a glorious British Christmas, which shows the kings and queens from the glorious revolution to the late Her Majesty. And so they're a little bit out of date. That's why we've reduced the price on them right down, just simply to cover the cost of postage. So if you'd like a pack of 5, we can send these to you. They're A5 and they're blank on the inside for your own message. We'll put the link up in the thread. You'll find the link for that. But it's at our shop, and we'll stick the shop up there. Shop, aforceforgood.uk/shop-1. I meant to bring this up last week. There's a party called the British Unionist Party. Now, we don't support any particular party, but they did send us their document here. Devolution and the Union, a critical perspective. And this is very interesting because there's basically no party that has produced a document from a critical perspective other than the British Unionist Party. So I was very interested to read this document, and it's 50 pages. 50 pages, and it's like good quality, and it starts off here: the Union in history, legislative devolution since 1998, the dangers of devolution and Unionist solutions. And it's basically an article a page. Challenging the pro-devolution consensus. That's their man. There is their elected representative. They've got an elected councillor for Tissot Ward, which transforms them into not just a talking shop, but an actual serious political party. And there's history here as well. And as I say, it's an article per page with big photographs. And how would you get a copy of this? That's a good question. They didn't tell me, but they do have a website, which is BritishUnionists.org. BritishUnionists.org, and it might be available on there, but certainly it's something some people may well be interested in. Devolution and the Union, a critical perspective. Thanks for reminding me of that. Hello to Anthony. Hope you're well, Anthony. Christopher says, what do you think about the Scottish council cuts? Ironic, since the Scottish so-called government is receiving the highest level of Westminster funding for councils. It's a good point. And a lot of it may be to do... Catherine says, I prefer the British Unionist Party to Labour, but I'm a tactical voter to get the SNP out. Yeah, the price, the government so-called government cuts might be due to something called Scotland's public sector black hole. And this is an article which appeared actually back in October, and it says an explosion in the size of Scotland's public sector, as well as soaring pay deals, have helped punch a huge black hole in the SNP government's finances that threatens services. Auditors warn, and an organisation called Audit Scotland, wow, what an original name, said the number of Scottish Government employees has surged by 65% since devolution in 1999. That is, from the equivalent of 150,000 full-time workers in the Scottish public sector prior to devolution to 245,000 this year. That's almost another 100,000 public sector workers. Well, I suppose that's what's going to happen when you basically reinvent the wheel, you know, because a lot of these jobs in Scotland were already being done by the 150,000 full-time workers, but now that you've got devolution, you're just bloating the public sector to another 100,000. And so that's going to cause a lot of problems with the budget for the public sector. Around half the surge in the number of public sector employees in Scotland since 1999 occurred in the NHS, while a further 27,000 was attributed to police and fire services being transferred to central government. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Remember when prior to Alex Salmond so-called nationalising the police and the fire services, doing that has added another 27,000 people to the payroll. Why would it do that? And here we go. The audit said the number of civil servants rose from the equivalent of 14,000 full-time workers to 26,000, partly thanks to creating agencies to handle newly devolved powers, such as Social Security Scotland. Okay, so Social Security was being dealt with at the overall British level with British civil servants in Scotland. They devolved it to Holyrood, and that required them to get another 12,000 public sector workers. Incredible. So that's the reason for, one of the main reasons anyway, for it. And talking about the public sector, and this brings us in nicely into our new book which we're working on. This is from The National yesterday. 9th White Paper says Indy would allow Scotland to transform its social security system. It's always about transforming, isn't it? There's always the implication that it's going to be transformed and it's going to be so much better. So much better because Scotland will be independent, and you'll have people like Shirley Ann Somerville who will not only lead the launch of the latest White Paper but will be telling us and ensuring that we, quote, have an adequate level of support for everybody, which, guess what, apparently we don't have within Westminster, but we're going to have when they get their way. Aye, right. But remember, this 9th White Paper was produced by the British civil servants, being paid for by you and I, who are doing the beck and call of Humza Yousaf. And it's all perfectly legal, and it's all perfectly within the law that our money as British taxpayers are being used to fund civil servants to write stuff like this, which is deliberately intended to break up the United Kingdom. Isn't that mental? Meanwhile, A Force for Good is trying to raise some pennies to campaign for the Union next year. We don't have the help of the British government funneling billions into us in the way that the SNP has, but we do rely upon the good supporters that we have throughout the United Kingdom to keep us going. So folks, if you can, please do hit that crowdfunder link, and we'll keep the crowdfunder link running across the bottom tonight, which is crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2024. We're 1 week into it, and it's fair to say it's not yet setting the woods on fire. Perhaps later it will do so, but at the moment it's still very much in the tentative early stages, and maybe we can reach a little bit more in the next few days, folks. The black hole lives on in Bute House, says Stuart. Christopher says, another interesting fact is that a large number of public sector jobs in Scotland are with UK agencies, such as HMRC. That's correct. And what they're trying to do, and what Gordon Brown wants to do, is to put even more of these public sector jobs to devolved institutions. He wants to devolve the jobs centres, and that will be, again, that's going to be an absolute disaster, because they're going to change it to Jobs Scotland. This is if Gordon Brown gets his way. They'll change it to Jobs Scotland. They'll change the outside, the exterior, the interior decor to make sure that you understand you're walking into Scotland's job centre. And they're going to do exactly what this woman, Shirley Ann Somerville, wants to do, which is to create a Scottish social security system under a devolved system, which she will always use as she'll use it as a political tool to basically say that we would be so much better and we would be doing so much more if we were not tied into the rest of the jobs system. And so we need to now get out, and we need to have separation. In other words, she will basically weaponize any kind of devolution in order to promote her way. And we wrote about this. We did half a chapter on this in our new book, specifically about what they'll do with the job centres if they get devolution for the job centres under a Labour government. Believe me, a Labour government will endanger the union. And in some ways it'll be worse than just simply having 48 SNP MPs, because you've got 48 SNP MPs at Westminster. What are they doing? Not very much. You get a Labour government that wants to mess up the UK, then they will actually make that happen. So very much a Hobson's choice whether you vote SNP or Labour, quite frankly, and we won't be recommending a vote for any particular party next year, unless it's British Unionism or something like one of these particular groups. Anyway, totally understand people who want to get the SNP out, and it's just an unfortunate situation that we're stuck in, isn't it? Yes, so that chapter is going to appear in our big book for the Union, Volume 1, which is going to be called One Big Country, and it should be finalised, everything going well, by this weekend, which means that we should have the first copy here in the office around about Tuesday, which means that we'll be, if we're happy with the copy and Amazon haven't messed it up in some way, then we'll be advertising it for sale that evening, and it will be ready to go. It's print on demand, so looking forward to that. There's one thing that's worrying me. It's going to be more pages than I thought it was, and I'm worried that Amazon might say it's going to have to retail at a higher price than we wanted it to retail at, and if it's a significantly higher price, then it's going to have to require us to reformat it down to smaller pages, which will set it back until after the new year. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case, and I'm hoping that we will be able to sell it at the format that we've designed, which hopefully will be $9.99. That's what I'm hoping we'll be able to sell it for. but we'll know by this weekend just how that's looking, and I'll make sure to keep everybody in the picture about that, because I know some people have asked how's it going. It's going well, and it's going to be the first of many that are going to be annual books coming out. So there'll be really educational volumes for your intellectual armoury, for the intellectual protection of the United Kingdom. And it's so necessary that we have these, so necessary. Somebody says, free England. Well, that's an interesting angle. Somebody on TikTok. What would we say to that? We would say that it's not as if it says free England, away you go. Well, the thing is, we can't go anywhere. That's the thing. Even if all parts of the United Kingdom wanted to break away from each other, we're all going to be stuck in the same small island group. And that's perhaps what the Republican Irish didn't really fully grasp. To make reference to the next comment there, they didn't seem to realise that they would still be stuck on the same island with the people that they disagreed with. So what we find, and what we've always argued, and what we argue in our big book for the Union Volume 1, is that the United Kingdom is the best way for us all just to rub along, because we'll always be stuck in this small island group with people often with very different points of view. But so long as you keep us within the big United Kingdom pond, then we can all swim around and generally avoid each other when and where appropriate. But when you take us out of that big British pond and you put us into our own separate countries, then we're all suddenly very tightly stuck in with each other like big fish in a goldfish bowl, and that never ends up well for anybody, especially not for the fish. So we would argue, to see the big picture, sir, see that we're still and will always be part of our one big island group, which we like to call our one big country. Right, well, it's the bottom of the hour. I want to have our On This Day in British History. So, on this day in British history, and there's a little backup story to this. 2 years ago, 3rd of November 2021, I was walking down one of the main roads here in Glasgow, near where I live, and there was some pages of what looked like a magazine fluttering on the pavement. And I'm kind of unusual in that I'll stop and pick up stuff because I can't get enough information. And so I see something and I have to pick it up because it might have important information on it. I'm just like that. So I stooped to pick up this. Okay, I haven't even sellotaped it yet. And it was, would you believe, some pages from the Illustrated War News, January the 9th, 1918. What was that doing fluttering about the street that I was walking in? That's the weirdest thing. It's like it looks like a magazine, and it's from, well, it is a magazine from the Illustrated War News. And it says here, the Halifax disaster, the ramming and explosion, and there's nothing else on that because the page is missing. So I'm like, took it home and I googled the Halifax disaster, which happened on this day, 6th of December in 1917, and would you believe it was the biggest man-made explosion to that date. 2.9 kilotons of TNT exploded in the harbour of Halifax in Nova Scotia. Okay, and what happened was there was a Norwegian vessel called the SS IMO in the harbour of Halifax, and it was leaving, and somehow it collided with a French cargo ship, the SS Mount Blanc, which was laden with explosives which were destined for the war in Europe. And the explosion, the IMO hit the Mount Blanc, and the Mount Blanc started to go on fire, but it didn't explode, so it gave some time for people to notice what was going on. But when it did explode, 1,782 people in the town of Halifax were killed, and around 9,000 injured. So I had never heard of that until I found this piece of paper fluttering in the breeze a couple of years ago. And so let's just put up a pic that we've got here. That's, you see, that looks like the aftermath of a nuclear explosion almost, but that's some of the Halifax shoreline just totally devastated. These were all houses there, and in the background, on the right of the picture as you look at it, that's actually the IMO, which somehow didn't get particularly damaged, unless it had maybe, I don't quite know what had happened, if it maybe just continued to sail on a bit after colliding with the Mount Blanc. And the next picture shows the blast radius of the bomb. Do we have the next picture here? There we go. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's 3 blue circles that go out. So you see most of that town there was taken out. Almost half of the city of Halifax at the time in 1917, decimated by the blast radius of the explosion. Okay. So a wee story from that, which I found on Wikipedia today, is that the death toll could have been much worse had it not been for the self-sacrifice of a railway dispatcher, Patrick Coleman, who was operating at the rail yard around Pier 6 where the explosion occurred. He and his co-worker learned of the dangerous cargo that was aboard the burning Mount Blanc, which they were looking out at. But Coleman remembered that there was going to be a passenger train coming into the station at any minute. And so he returned to his post and continued to send out urgent telegraph messages to stop the train coming into Halifax, lest there was going to be an almighty explosion. And several variations of the message have been reported, among them, quote, "Hold up the train, ammunition ship afire in harbour, making for Pier 6 and will explode. This will be my last message. Goodbye, boys." And so, basically, thanks to Patrick Coleman, his message was responsible for bringing all the incoming trains into Halifax to a halt, as it was also heard by other stations along the Intercontinental Railway. And he is believed to have saved the lives of about 300 railway passengers as a consequence of his messages, but he himself was killed at his post. So that was the Halifax explosion, the biggest of all time to its date, on this day, the 6th of December in 1917. Halifax, Nova Scotia. Has anybody been to New Scotland? And is it indeed a bit like Scotland? That Preston journalist says Lochnagar was Scottish soldiers tunnelling beneath German trenches. Ah, right, yeah, I've heard of something like that. In World War I, they blew the Germans sky high, creating the Lochnagar crater that is still there today. Crikey. Crikey. We must look into that and have that as a day in British history. Definitely. Thank you for that information, sir. Folks, if you're on YouTube, do check out That Preston Journalist for daily videos, which are very good descriptions and commentary on what is happening. Ash he's always on the button, on the bell. As soon as something happens, he'll give you his opinion on it. A really good site. Please do check him out. That Preston Journalist on YouTube. Paul says, yes, it was at the Somme. And the crater is still a tourist attraction. Stuart says, when is the Preston Journalist a guest again? Well, good point. We could have the Preston Journalist very, very shortly. We'll look into it and see when he is available to be on the show. Maybe get him before Christmas. That might be an idea. David Stanners says that Preston Journalist is bang on. Okay, let's talk here about our crowdfunder. And I want to just mention a couple of things. We're presently at 3% of our target. We're looking for 100%, obviously. We're currently at 3%, so we've got 97% still to go. But that can be done. That can be done. Our advice is, please, there's only so much that I can say and do to encourage people. It's really the best way of getting people to donate is through word of mouth. You know, if you know somebody who is always complaining about the state of the United Kingdom or the SNP or something like that, then suggest to them that they do something about it. And by supporting one of the groups that are working all the time to not just counter the separatism, but also to build up the idea of our fantastic United Kingdom. Because we're very eclectic in what we do. We're not just... we're building the philosophy as much as taking practical action. Okay, and we're building that philosophy through our magazines and through our hard copy books and through our On This Day work, which we put out every day on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Substack. And so we're building the idea of the nation, okay, because the nation is something that doesn't just exist. A nation is something that has to be built. So we're doing that every day. And I want to talk about that in a moment. So not only are we building the nation, but we're also protecting the nation in whatever ways that we can politically. And we do have a lot that we do every year and what we want to do next year also, a lot of things. So if you check out crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2024, we do lay it all out there, folks. And so please, if you know of anybody who's got a few pennies to spare, and I know many people don't have much to spare at this time because of this cost of living crisis, but there are rich people out there who do have money, who will spend it on things that they believe in, and there's a lot of people there who haven't yet discovered a force for good. And so if you know anybody like that, please do point them in our direction, because we will make good use of the money, because we're extremely frugal and we do run on a very small budget, and nobody here is getting big wages at all. That's for certain. Good. So some of the things that we've got at our crowdfunder, now a lot of people just come in and they donate, and that's fine. But if you want to donate and also get something for it, then we've got a whole list of what crowdfunder call rewards. Okay, so you can donate 30 quid if you want, or you can donate 30 quid and you'll also get like cushion covers, or you'll get beanie hats or so on. Let's just run through some of the pictures that we've got up here for rewards that we've got. I mean, we're really quite professional at this, I have to say. Let's stick a picture up. That's a Union Jack laptop zip bag. You'll get that for what's that one? If you make a donation of I think that's 35 quid or whatever. You'll also get that as well. What's the next one? Similarly, another differently designed laptop zip bag. Okay. Beanie hat. Super soft blanket. Union Jack super soft blanket or throw. You'll get that if you make a particular donation as well. Okay. Oven gloves. Union Jack oven gloves. They're actually really good. Cool bag stroke satchel. You'll get that. Okay. Bobble hat. That's good quality. That's a good quality bobble hat. You make a donation of a certain amount, you'll get that. Union Jack mug with naffy tea bags. You'll get that as well. That's a really good one. And that's the t-shirt that I'm wearing. We've got 6 of those in different sizes, running from small to extra, extra large. And then we've got some wooden flags. We've taken the price down on these wooden flags as well. So that's a really good one at the Union Jack one. This one coming up that's a brilliant one. And we've taken the price down on that as well. So you can get that as a reward. And that's excellent for like a lodge or for a clubhouse or for a retirement present or something like that. Okay. And that's another one, the saltire with the lion rampant with a Union Jack as well. That's a really nice design. Taking the price down on that one as well. Okay. And got 1 RAF wooden flag left. There was 3. There's now 1 remaining. So get yours for your clubhouse or for your barracks even, or for your mess or whatever. See what I mean? We've got this really professionalized, and it's simply about getting people to know about us, because we do suffer a little bit. I think there's certain cliques that don't push us because they think we're too real, and so we can't rely upon the people that other people rely upon, so we're relying upon basically you and our supporters. That's the crowdfunder, and it is a crucial part of our work, a crucial part of our income stream each year. And we'll see how it goes this year, if it's going to work or not. It may be that it's we'll just have to see. But crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2024. Now, I was talking there about how we at A Force for Good try to create the nation as much as defend it, And I was looking through some things today which I found a little bit shocking. This report, Young in Dark about Remembrance Day. And it says, to the extent that these polls can be believed, but let's take this one seriously, only 1 in 3 young people knows that Remembrance Day commemorates the First World War armistice. The survey found only 33% of those born between 1981 and 96, and those born between 97 and 2012 know which event is remembered on November the 11th. Well, that's remarkable, really. The poll asked more than 1,000 British adults aged from 16 to 75 what war was commemorated each year on Remembrance Day. 47% of adults said the First World War. Almost 30% said the Second World War, while other answers included the Second English Civil War. Somebody must have been having a laugh with that answer. The Second English Civil War. Some others thought the Iraq War, and some others were saying the Napoleonic Wars. Well, if you've even heard of the Napoleonic Wars, you're going to know, surely, that Armistice Day is about the First World War. So I don't understand those particular answers. But if we presume that people were answering sincerely, then that's still shocking. Absolutely shocking that people didn't know that. And it doesn't appear that it was all just young people either, because some of the older people didn't appear to know it either, which does make you wonder about things, really, considering that this is something that happens every single year. It's not like a one-off. Anyway, the point is, we need to educate. We constantly need to educate. Educating about the nation is a constant thing, an everyday thing, and that's why we do that. It's one of the reasons why we have our On This Day in British History, and we push it out across all our platforms, because it's about reminding people of the past so that we can learn the lessons of the past and apply them to the present. And if we don't know what wars were about, or that even there were wars, then we're going to be vulnerable to any kind of warmonger or any kind of person who comes forward and tries to get us to support particular wars. If we don't understand how bad wars were in the past, then we're going to be open to the idea that we should have more of them. So it's really remarkable that people don't know that. So we have to keep those elements of our British history alive. And next year, what we're going to do at A Force for Good is we're going to have a special edition of Union Heart, probably a 16-pager, dedicated specifically to World War I, because it will be the 110th anniversary of the beginning of World War I in 1914. And so we're going to look at that from as we always do, from a particularly Scottish perspective. And that's going to be another educational magazine that we will be able to produce and promote on our street stalls. So, folks, if you like the work that we do, if you are engaged by our educational mission as much as our political and practical mission, then please do consider supporting our crowdfunder. And Tommy says, did it not change from the First World War to all wars? I think that it did, really. Yeah, I think that it did. It did start off as a commemoration, obviously, of the First World War. But as time went by, and as young Willie McBride had to fight again and again and again and again, so it changed to remembering all wars, and that's what we do with it today, isn't it? We remember everything from all wars right up to the present day. Ian says something of interest here. A beanie hat is a British invention, properly called the Monmouth hat. Folks, we'll be back next Wednesday. Now, next Wednesday we might even have a copy of the book to show you. We shall see, fingers crossed. But in the meantime, it just remains for me to say thank you for watching. Thank you for all your comments that have come in. Thank you to folk on TikTok as well. Sorry I couldn't get to read out anything. But just remember this. God bless the United Kingdom, and God save the King. See you next time.